Welcome, everyone, to our Power Thinking, rejuvenating your amazing mind training for Wednesday. It is the 26th of August, 2026, and this is our 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time edition. I'm your moderator, Stanley Green, and it's a pleasure to have, and I'm honored to have David Jones as a co-host, one of our Power Thinking mobile app users, and we're focused today on thinking traps, but particularly as it relates to the March on Washington, August 28th, 1963, 63 years ago. This morning, one of the reasons why we focused on it, because typically each year, and for most years that we have been doing power thinking training, we've had Gail Berger around this time. Gail has been a member since about 2020. And Gail was actually at the March on Washington. So when most people talk about it, especially the young folks, wow, it's ancient history. And I remember, they watched the clips, audio clips and video clips of the I Have a Dream. And that's usually what they get to. Don't play the entire speech, but it's typically a few minutes, or actually maybe 2 minutes of it at the end. But there were more speeches, and the speech before Dr. King was a rabbi, Joachim Prince, and he, many rabbis across the country encourage, their membership to board buses and go to Washington, D.C. Gail Berger, one of our Power Thinking members, was one of those folks, and she was 12 years old at the time when she was accompanied by her father, who always spoke out when they had the McCarthy trials in the 50s, and of course, going into civil rights in the 60s. Jewish people were right there with African Americans and others who were committed to make change, to ensure that folks wouldn't be living under the conditions they were living in. So when we talk about resilience and bouncing back, that's what was happening there. So David Jones, CEO and co-founder of the Hello LLC, focused on helping businesses, individuals embrace AI. Welcome, and thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. I was not born in 1963, so I cannot sit here and say, oh, I remember back then, back in the day. Not at all, but we have all seen, this speech from Martin Luther King. We've seen all the amazing other speeches, that took place during this time. And, the funny thing is, and not even the funny thing is, but we're still talking about these same issues and problems now. When we're talking about, voting rights, when we're talking about integrating just our education, when we're talking about, fair, employment, we're talking about federal jobs, we're talking about higher minimum wage. These things are still something that is happening today that we're still talking about. And this is something that Rabbi Prince, definitely talked about, was being able to warn people and let them know of the discrimination, which is why he was kicked out during the Nazis. Right during the German, situation and the Holocaust, and I actually studied that quite well in middle school, and actually went to the Holocaust Museum and spoke at the Holocaust Museum in Houston, Texas, and actually got to meet some Holocaust survivors as well. And once you dig deep into that, it's treacherous, and you don't know hate until you really see that and feel the hate. And it blows my mind that we are still dealing with this same hatred and the same way of thinking and the stand buying and not, saying something and doing something about it, knowing it's right. And I share with people all the time, we as a civilization, as a society, we have to understand that this is something taught. This is evil. This is a learned behavior. And, it happens on both sides. Don't get it twisted. It's not just one side. It happens in both households. And until we can come together like the march, in 1963 and have these conversations and understand that this is betterment for all of us. And it goes back to what I continue to share, with Miss Leah Garcia and on all these shows that, collaboration is the new currency. Collaboration is the new, competition. And more importantly, no one's free until all free.
Yeah.
That again, no one's free until we're all free. And right now, we're fighting for this person's freedom, that person's freedom. Does this person get freedom? Does that person? Last time I checked, we're all humans. And what it's going to take, unfortunately, is some aliens to drop down on this planet and for us to be like, oh, you're a human. I'm a human. Oh, I love you. We don't know about them yet, but I love you. And it's not going to be a 1 millimeter skin tone color that, stops us from liking each other or understanding each other or understanding that we all come from the same cloth, that we all are trying to make it. We're all trying to survive, and we're learning from the best that we can from what they got. And these traumas that we learn, those are on us. But it's up to us to get rid of those traumas. And we all know by now, seeing the videos, seeing social media, it's not right, right? And it's up to you to stop justifying this craziness that's going on in today's world. So this is where I'm glad we're having this conversation, because most people try to avoid this conversation. It's not a racist conversation whatsoever. And a lot of the times we get that, right? As black people, that, oh, well, he's an angry black person or he's an angry this. No, I just want to talk about the truth. I want to talk about what's going on, something that impacts me every single day that you might not know about. And being in an interracial relationship, this is something that me and Tara talk about all the time. She
Hmm.
says, baby, I can't understand it, but being with you, I didn't notice these things. I didn't recognize these things. I see it now, and I live it. And this is something that you won't understand being on the other side or not living in that day-to-day, reference. Even here in Bangkok, Thailand. Yes, it's the land of the smiles, but people have these assumptions. People only see the movies. People only hear from the bad apples or see the bad apples on TV, and that reflects back on us. And so this is where we just need to all just take a chill pill and realize that we're breathing air. We bleed blood, right? And we all want some good food and good loving at the end of the day. And we can do this together. And the sooner that we get over that, the better it can be. And this is for both sides, not just one. All is one. And we
Mhm.
all have to come together and drop this nonsense and really focus on who really is the problem child. And we can talk about it, but we all know who it is. It ain't us. And we really got to be able to stop being pinned up against each other. And
Yeah.
yes, there are a lot of the times where people take on this behavior, they do these things, and it just is not right. And no matter how many times we go through it and we try to share that it's not right, as they say, nobody's going to fix you until you fix yourself.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times we choose this hatred. We choose to continue this pattern because we don't know any other way. And
Yeah.
so this is why we encourage people
Hmm.
to really learn the history, learn what's going on, talk to
Right.
somebody, and actually try to understand and not be defensive every time this type of conversation comes up. Well, oh, I don't
True.
want to talk about it. Ah, that happened back then. Why are we still? It's still happening today. It is still happening today. I can go down names and names and list of names. It's still happening today. We just have to confront it and be honest with it, right?
Right.
As a lot of the times we're not honest with ourselves in our daily lives, especially a situation this big. So I'm glad
True.
we're having this conversation.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, let's do this. Let's acknowledge Layla Llewellyn, who's in California. It says, "Welcome, Power Thinking. Welcome, Power Thinkers." She's joining us on YouTube. Let's go to our phone lines. We have a couple of people there. Just introduce yourself, because normally names come up, and I'm operating on the app, coming through on the app on my phone. And let's start with, and I do believe this is Carla Hill, and correct me if I'm mistaken. And welcome. Mention where you're joining us from, and your thoughts about resilience and what we do with power thinking and the March on Washington in 1963. Welcome, and thank you for your patience, because we couldn't get to you this morning because we were spending that time with Gail. So thank you for coming back. And so share your thoughts. Welcome.
Thank you, Stanley. Thank you, David. I was Gail was inspirational. Just in terms of a couple of things come to mind. This is Carla Hill of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Um, and one of the things I love about this program is that you surprise us sometimes, because I remember, because I've been in it for a few years, anticipate, right, um, what is coming in terms of the record, because this
Yes.
and empathy, right?
Yes.
And the optimism, and also the thinking trap of silence. Think, oh, I'm not saying anything. I'm just like, no, that's not. Sometimes, I mean, sometimes that's the appropriate tool, and sometimes it's not.
Hmm.
And that bystander type of stuff. Um, and one of the other things that I think of is a city council person in Philadelphia, Dr. Nina Ahmad. She's a molecular biologist, PhD. And when she speaks publicly, she talks a lot about diversity, like basically a lack of genetic diversity leads to defects. And it's the same thing in organizational groupthink. If if you have anything of one of anything, you have blind spots. And diverse thoughts, not just race and gender, but diverse thoughts. I've heard the phrase community brings immunity,
Hmm.
right, in terms of our thoughts. So hearing Gail this morning, hearing Rabbi Prince, which is very opening, that, his lived experience of leaning in and how that allowed him to be empathetic towards the civil rights cause also. Um, and listening to the tenets of the Jewish religion and how it aligns with, no, we're not going to say silence is not appropriate. So, uh, learning process here. So, thank you for sharing.
Well, thank you, Carla. Really appreciate it. And let's go right to the next caller who is joining us. You'll mention where you're joining us. Mention your name, where you're joining us from, and your thoughts about what we do with power thinking and the March on Washington. And let us know if you did hear Gail Berger this morning. So, welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Hello, Stan. Hello, Power Thinking family.
Great.
This is Calvin here in Winston-Salem, North Carolina.
Wonderful. Welcome, Calvin.
I was, 7 years old.
Yeah.
When the March on Washington occurred, so I remember it vaguely as a child. I remember my parents making me aware of it and watching some of it on TV. I remember them saying, we can't be there, we have to work, but we're going to give money to support the cause through the church, and they did. I remember Dr. King's speech, and of course, a lot of folks either don't know or don't remember that there were other speakers, and they also don't know or remember that beyond the I have a dream quote that, since that was the title of the speech, Dr. King did a magnificent job of articulating that dream in a real definitive way when he talks about a promissory note, written to African Americans or Negroes, as we were called at that time, and how that, that promissory note had come due and hadn't been paid. So, yeah, really, really memorable experience, and Gail Berger did a wonderful job in sharing her part and actually being there. I do want to shift gears because I am saddened to mention that one of our Power Thinking family members has transitioned and become an ancestor. This past Monday, Greg Jones Sr. passed away.
Wait, hold.
And
Hold it.
it was,
Greg Jones.
Sudden, it was unexpected. I'm still feeling what you feel when you lose a brother, when you lose a fellow church member, when you lose a fellow power thinking family member. Greg and I belong to the same church in Brooklyn, New York, and we have a Bible study Tuesday mornings at 6:00 by phone, and we always, the two of us, talk about our membership as part of the Power Thinking family, and how a lot of what we talk about, even though it's not in a religious context, complements a lot of what we would talk about in terms of the biblical principles. Greg was a volunteer. He was a mentor for young people. He was active in the church. He was a businessman, and he was my brother. So the principles behind power thinking are actually helping me get through this. It's like you remind us, Stan, like we remind each other. It's not if something is going to happen that makes the rubber hit the road in terms of the power of thinking principles that we discuss and live. It's when, and really and truly, Greg's transition to being an ancestor is really helping me in terms of applying these principles and making them real. The grief is there, the sadness is there. I know it will pass, and I know his spirit lives on, and we will see each other again on the other side. So thank you for this vehicle. Thank you for the other Power Thinking members from around the world that make this family such a special place. I am complete.
Calvin, thank you for sharing this tragic information. Greg, I had it in my calendar to attend one of the 6 a.m.s he invited me. I had a reminder yesterday. I just didn't have the number. And he was scheduled. We just talked a few weeks ago, and he was scheduled to come on. I just saw it today on the 9th of September to be a co-host. I said, Greg, you got to come on, be a co-host. He said, Stan, okay. And we scheduled it for the 9th. So this is shocking. And as you mentioned, this is what we talk about with power thinking. It's not a question of if something is going to happen. It's a matter of when, and we don't know what it's going to be. So this is a shock. And I don't know. Do you know? I'm going to go to, and bear with me there, David, and everyone else. Let me try to get Calvin unmuted here. And I'm wondering if you know what may have happened there, Calvin. And doesn't seem like we can. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit next, and Calvin, come back in at *6. We always enjoyed Greg's input, and he would sign off with what Calvin signs off with, and he would attribute it to Calvin and say, as Calvin, my good friend Calvin, would say, I am complete. And that's how he ended. But it were times when he was driving a grandchild to school and have it on speaker, and he would have his granddaughter, say hello to everybody. He did a lot of great work with children. Again, hit that *6, Calvin. So, yeah, this is what happens in life, folks. And this is the time where, we have to look at, as opposed to, just, how hard it is to comprehend, how we can and kind of look forward and just be thankful for the time that Greg Jones was with us. Calvin, do you know what happened?
Can you hear me, Stan?
Yes, I can. Go right ahead.
Okay. So Monday morning, as a fellow brother, Reverend Charles, he and Greg actually started the Bible study like 12 or 13 years ago. Reverend Charles called me or texted me actually, and I called him back, and he said I wanted to give you the news rather than getting something on social media or whatever. And he basically said that Greg got up as he normally would early Monday morning and said, what he needed to his wife. And, he lived in Queens, so he went to the basement and started his morning routine and was watching Sports Center. And his wife called to him and he didn't respond. And she went downstairs and found him. We don't know officially Reverend Charles did, but it looked like an apparent heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing definitive has been shared with me.
Okay.
But it was sudden. It was at home, and as with life in general, one minute things were normal, and the next minute things were really not normal. So we talk regularly, me and Greg, and again we always talked about Stan and power thinking and the power thinking family.
Yeah, he told me. He said that.
It's more than just a thing. It's really given us tools and strategies to deal with, the good times and the bad times. The times when things are going well and we're, feeling that, but certainly when things take a real turn in the road. So, he lived what he taught. You mentioned the grandchildren. He has a son who's a firefighter in New York. So he will be missed. He is loved. He will be missed. And like I said, quite a few of us in Greg's life are just, really trying to come to grips with the situation.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because of the suddenness of it all.
Well, my condolences, and on behalf of our group, here, condolences to, Greg's family and all the friends. This is a big shock. He was always a calming, voice and gave great perspective, but you got this sense that he genuinely, loved people, especially children, and was doing a great job with all of the children, especially his grands. And David, bear with us, as we kind of shift gears here. So when we go down and let's bring up a couple of comments. And Melanie it says, hello, Melanie Richards, one of our newest members. Annie Osung from the UK, who's over in the UK. And by the way, David Jones is in Thailand. So, we have a global audience and we all are, sending, our condolences. Andy says deepest condolences. We have Leona Martin, who was with us recently as a co-host. So sorry to hear this, Calvin. May he rest in peace. And Melanie Richards, who just commented, may Greg Jones rest in power and peace. Prayers for his family, extended family, and friends. And so thank you for that, Melanie. Remember our strengths of resilience, and certainly this is where we really need to focus on to be strong. Number one is that emotion regulation. It's very, very challenging when you hear news like that and something happens so suddenly when the person was otherwise everything was just great. That impulse control, the ability not to say or do the first thing that comes to mind, and it's just very emotional for me. And certainly, I know for you, Calvin, and all of us who've heard Greg in these sessions, the empathy, the ability to understand another person's experiences, emotions, the self-efficacy, the belief that you have control over your ability to succeed and move forward, and putting everything in its proper perspective, the optimism, the view that all things ultimately will have a successful outcome. And as we think about the family and especially those grands that he loved so much and would be taken to school and teaching, many of the examples that he would share with us about emotion regulation and impulse control, it would be examples of, the children he mentored and taught, and especially his grandchildren. The causal analysis, systematic way of finding the root cause of a situation, a problem, and then reaching out. Like you've done here, Calvin, and like we are all doing, and connecting with each other, taking action when faced with those setbacks and challenges. One of the big Skills, of course, we have our skills of resilience, learning the ABCs, are avoiding the thinking traps, detecting icebergs, challenging beliefs, putting it in perspective, and this is where we we have the gratitude exercises, right? And at the end of the day, the three good things. Um, Here's where we want to be grateful, as we are sad and shocked. Uh, this is where we're grateful that He has come this way, and the time that He spent on this earth was amazing. Every Tuesday, and again, I had the alarm go off for the 6 a.m. session, and I didn't have a number, and I said I got to call Greg so that I can get the number to join in and be on for next Tuesday. So, but just to be grateful that someone like him walked this earth and helped so many people. One of our members in Virginia by the Harold Christian, he started to connect with Greg. Greg connected with him, and he was on those calls, and he really uh, you know. Was inspired by Greg, and they've developed a great friendship and relationship. And that's what happens with this community. Folks really gravitate to folks that they like and respect. And he shared that. Harold shared that with me. He absolutely loved Greg. So we put it all in perspective and be grateful that his time here was fruitful, that calming and focusing. And I had to do that real time. And our seventh skill was real time resilience. And I had to go through that as I was, I'm trying to do a program, and I get this news, and I'm shocked, and I'm starting to well up, and trying to keep myself calm. And and that's what this is all about, recognizing that with his family and his friends, they can all say, yeah, well, he's not here, and that's a bad thing. But at the same time, he impacted positively so many people. So as we wrap this up, Calvin, I thank you. David Jones, would you like to make any comments, and then we can kind of close it out?
My heart and prayers go out to Greg, and of course the Jones, to a Jones. You never know at the end of the day, and this is why life is so important, for us to be grateful, for us to be gracious, for us to have love and kindness and integrity with ourselves. So when we do leave here, we can make sure that we leave the people with the right essence and the memory of us. And even more so, this is why I share with people now more than ever that, this social media is a way for you to live forever, and for you to get on social media, and for you to press the button, and for you to share your story, for you to become a part of the Power of Thinking Corp, and for you to go on some of these live events and really leave your legacy and leave your words, so grandchildren, your kids, and your friends can go back and watch who you are. So this press the button that I continuously share with you, and so many other people continue to share with you, especially during the Power Thinking app, is for you to, encourage yourself to get to the next level in your life. And, Greg has met his end, and he was able to, give love and grace to everybody. If I'm not mistaken, I believe Greg came on when I was on with you, Stanley, and he was talking with his grandchildren, and I could be mistaken. Um, but this is where we have to really live today for today, and be grateful that you have today, and learn and love and cherish those things that you have close at the end of the day. And this goes right back to what Dr. King was talking about, and Rabbi Prince, is that you just don't know. And so, this equality, this standing by, not saying anything, you being able to, help other people is so important, as it is at the beginning of the time, as it is at the end of time, for you to show up and for you to speak and for you to show up in life to the fullest. And so that's what I'd have to share, to this news. And this is why, I tell people, hey, look, you are rearranging the chairs on the Titanic. This ship is going down. So you got to treat people right and don't throw them off and throw a rope and bring them back up on, the Titanic. Treat people right, and play the last song and play it well and play it loud and don't give up. Right at the end of the day,
Yeah.
so we all have that day and that transition. So let's keep living and let's keep being amazing together, and understanding that this skin, right, doesn't mean anything. Our colors doesn't mean anything. Our religion doesn't mean anything. It's who we are and who we show up and who we impact as we leave this earth. Friends, family, a stranger, all is the same. All is one. How you do one thing is how you do everything.
Great. Well, David, thank you so much. Everyone, thank you for joining us. I should be back 100% with a new phone next week. So we kind of joined via the app. Where I ran this phone into the ground and it said I can't do it anymore. So we'll get a new phone. But again, remember, since we spend all of our time thinking uh, like Greg Jones, think with power, and he did, and it wasn't about him. He had the business, financial business with Primerica. It was truly about helping every human being that he came in touch with. And I was looking forward to having him, on the 9th of September. I actually called him and said, I got to bring you on as a co-host, man. You can't just be calling it. We got to have you as a co-host. But he will forever be a co-host with us with Power Thinking. And so I'm going to thank you all for your patience as we honored Greg, and we heard the news, and we kind of dealt with this in real time, and it is definitely the proof of the importance of what we do with Power Thinking. So thank you all for being with us today, and we'll see you again next Wednesday as we move into September, as we begin rapidly to close this particular year out. But I am honored that you take this 30 minutes in the morning on Wednesdays, and the 30 minutes in the evening to just kind of refresh, what this is all about, so that when this the adversity hits, we're ready, and we're going to keep bouncing back, and we're going to keep moving forward, and we're going to keep helping every person that we can while we are here on this earth. So thank you. Make it a great remainder of the week. And again, condolences. And Greg, thank you so much for what you've done to enrich this community, but the community at large, as well as your family, and especially those precious grandchildren that you always reference as you contributed to Power Thinking. So take care, everyone. We appreciate